What I'm saying to you is that if you hang on to that, if you're attached to the belief that you can't do something because you've always been told that, or because you're just like your father, or you inherited that from your mother. You hear families saying this over and over again. Oh, he got that from his grandfather and all. He got this from his great-grandmother and all of that. That's nonsense. You are what you choose to be, not what you inherit. And you've got to know in your soul that you have the capacity to be anything that you want, that you are a purposeful divine creature, and that you can create anything you want for yourself in your life. And the first thing you have to do is get rid of all of those self-defeating I ams. I'm old. I'm tired. I can't help it. I always tell people, look, don't let an old person move into your body. It's your body. You can do anything you want with it. And if you start walking slow, and if you start stooping yourself over, and you start minimizing your energy levels and sitting around a lot, and feeling sorry for yourself, and watching the world go by, before long you're going to be immobilized throughout your entire life. Don't let that old person move in. Keep yourself young and vibrant. Not youthful necessarily. I mean, be grateful for whatever age that you are. But don't take on those habits that are going to keep you from being able to do anything you want. There's no age out there. I mean, I watched Norman Vincent Peale get up in front of an audience, and he's in his mid-90s, and he's got more energy than some people I know in their 20s and 30s, and it's an attitude. It's a belief. This is a man who is one of the pioneers of the positive thinking movement, and his whole life has been a testament to that. And I've seen it over and over again. And I also see people who are exactly the opposite. You don't have to be tiredness as a choice. Yeah, fatigue is a choice. You don't get tired when you have something pleasant to do. Your life is working when you're inspired. And being inspired means to think inspirational thoughts about yourself. Music. A major category of erroneous zones. One that immobilizes people all over the world. Is this whole business of guilt and worry. I'm guilty. Let's start with guilt. People use guilt all the time. It's amazing. It doesn't matter where you go. We were in Jamaica just a few weeks ago, my wife and all of the children, with 7 children, and we were going through the various markets, and there was this older woman there who had 1 tooth, and she didn't look like she was very healthy. And we walked past her tent and didn't walk in, and the woman said, "Come into my tent, come into my tent." And we just sort of kept walking because there's 100 tents there. Finally, she started yelling at us. Nobody likes me. Nobody wants to come into my tent. You don't like me at all. Nobody likes me. Oh, my children don't like me. Nobody. Sure enough, my wife turned around and said, maybe we should go in that tent. Guilt is very effective at getting people to conform and to do what you want them to do. What is guilt? Guilt is the immobilization that comes from living in the past. It is about you can't be guilty about things that you're going to do. Your guilt is about things in the past, and let's distinguish right here that there's something called learning from the past, which is very valuable and very important. And there's nothing in the world wrong with it. You do something. You behave towards someone in a way that you don't like. You've done something that is inappropriate. You've made a mistake. You've dropped the ball in some way. And what you say to yourself instead of, oh, I'm so terrible and I'm so awful and I'm just such a bad person, which is instantly putting a label on yourself and immobilizing you and keeping you from growing and learning from it. What you can say instead is, I am going to work even harder in this day at not behaving in those ways, and these are the things that I'm going to do. But most people don't do that. Instead, they accept guilt. And the guilt that they accept is, I am not worthy. And this is the reason that they adopt this kind of a strategy, is because they've been taught this since the time that they were little boys and little girls. We get children to do things by making them feel guilty. You know, oh, all right, you don't have to carry the chairs upstairs and I'll carry them with my bad back. You just sit there and enjoy yourself. Why, I'll carry all of these card table chairs on my back. And it doesn't matter. Don't worry about me. I'm just your mother. And if I fall down and it's like instantly up, and you've got this whole vision of her falling down the stairs and card table chairs all over her and so on, and it works. And the schools use it. And the churches use it. You know, they're famous for it, and parents use it, and businesses use it, and institutions use it. You see people susceptible to it all the time. You can get somebody to tip a little more by just giving them a look to make them feel guilty. You can literally make anybody do anything that you want through guilt. And guilt is a trap. And it's a useless emotion, because being immobilized now about something that has already happened is, when you think about it, a pretty silly and wasteful thing to do. The now is here. Everything that happened in your life happened. You can never should have done it. You can never would have done it. You can never could have done it any differently than it happened. And knowing that all of the things that you've done in your life are over, then if they're over in the physical reality, then in your mind is the only place that you have anything left over. Since the physical reality is just now, now is all there is and all there ever is. It's the working unit of your life. So everything that has transpiring in the past, since it's over, the only thing that's left over is how you're choosing to process it. If you process it in a way that makes you feel guilty, then that will immobilize you. That will make your life unhappy. That will keep you from being fulfilled in the present moments of your life. So what you want to do, instead of processing events and things that you've done that you've chosen to feel guilty over, is to say, instead, I'm going to shift that to, how can I learn from these? What's the lesson in this? What did I have to learn? I have a belief that life gives exams. And if you don't pass the exams, you just keep repeating them over and over and over again. And a lot of people use this guilt trip. Their whole life becomes this enormous trip of guilt. Always feeling bad about what they've done and why they did it. Always putting themselves down and finding fault with who they are. Always rejecting themselves because they didn't perform to somebody else's expectations, or they didn't do things the way they were supposed to do them, and so on. So guilt plays a big role in people's lives. It plays a role in our culture. We are all very susceptible to it. Okay, I'd like to just review a couple of strategies here for getting rid of guilt. First is to begin to review the past as something that can never be changed. That's very important. It's over, and your feeling guilty isn't going to change the past, nor will it make me a better person now. If you were in a society or in a culture in which by feeling bad about what happened in the past it would change it, I would be here making a tape in favor of guilt. Like if right now you could feel guilty about the outcome of the Peloponnesian War and how terrible the outcome was and how awful the Athenians were treated and so on. And then if I said to you, well, will that change the outcome of the war? You would say, well, of course not. It's over. Well, this morning is just as over as the Peloponnesian War. And you're feeling guilty about what happened this morning is just in terms of changing what happened is just as much sense as feeling guilty about the outcome of the Peloponnesian War. Well, no, it isn't going to change the outcome at all. So instead of being focused on things that are not going to change the outcome, what you want to do is be focused on how you can in fact change the outcome in the future. And guilt keeps you from changing the outcome in the future. So that's what you have to understand about guilt. Guilt, like everything else in your life, transpires now in this moment. This is when it's happening. And instead of, if you can look at and process it this way and say, instead of feeling guilty in this moment, what could I be doing otherwise? And that's the big payoff for guilt. Guilt keeps you from doing something about it. That's why I call it a useless emotion, and because it keeps you hung up on the past and the present, which is all you have. And if you use up your present to be hung up on the past, then you can't use your present to do something constructive now. So it's a very useful technique emotionally for people to employ to keep themselves from taking risks, from trying new things, from moving on in their life. You should ask yourself what you're avoiding in the present. And ask that question instead of feeling guilty right now. What could I be doing? And then begin to accept certain things about yourself as who you are. Then if your parents or your boss or your spouse or somebody doesn't like something that you've done or whatever, instead of feeling guilty about it, you say, this is who I am. These are the choices that I make. Yes, I'm a person who dresses this way. And if somebody else doesn't like it, like if it's a relative or whatever and they don't like it, this is still who I am. So